Well, comrades, when I was a kid, I did not like Twilight. Now, I had never read Twilight, but I still knew that I didn't like Twilight. I knew that vampires weren't supposed to be pretty, you weren't supposed to fall in love with vampires. Vampires were not supposed to sparkle in the sunlight. However, one thing I realized when I grew older, when I got exposed to more media, particularly when I saw the 1931 Bela Lugosi film, is that vampires were supposed to be sexy long before Twilight. Vampires, for whatever reason, have long been shown as alluring. But there is something that still seems off about Twilight vampires. The author of Twilight, Stephanie Myers, has made no secret of the influence of Mormonism on Twilight. The vampires within Twilight have eternal life, just like Christians are promised within their religion. Italian vampires, which are the Catholic stand-ins, are misguided and hurt people, but the American vampires, the Mormon stand-in, well, they can achieve eternal life without harming anyone. They've taken the fundamental good of vampirism and they've improved upon it through their American vampireness. But to frame vampires as representing Christians feels fundamentally backwards, both in terms of the basic aesthetics of vampires, the people who are burned by crosses in holy water, but also in the broader context of what a vampire should represent. If vampires are to represent not just demonic forces, but those people who are persecuted and counterculture more broadly, then to frame vampires as the Christians is, honestly, it's a complete misunderstanding of American culture, where Christianity represents the religion of almost every politician and judge, and where the symbols of Christianity are foisted on everyone regardless of religion. Now, I am partial to the idea that vampires are not just demonic monsters, that in many instances, the vampire is supposed to be the sympathetic character. Well, not exactly vampires. The Addams family seems to represent the immigrant family, whose manners seem different, but despite a creepy veneer are wholesome, often more wholesome than the American family, and I think vampires might be in a similar position. The 1872 four-star Irish classic Carmilla shows a lesbian relationship, perhaps in the only way they could, safely, in 1872, as something monstrous and predatory, through vampires. But maybe we were never meant to see the vampires as truly monstrous. Carmilla sits at an interesting place as a character. She's both something supernatural and magical, but also something that, or someone I should say, that rejects God and religion, and objects to reference to the Creator, and uses the term nature to replace that word, which gives the vampire at once a supernatural feel and also a very materialistic and perhaps atheistic feel. Not satanic, not embracing evil and Satan, but rejecting God. Vampires are always shown as evil, but it seems hard to imagine that in literature like Carmilla, or even in Twilight, that they aren't meant as a way to make the counterculture cool, even when there wasn't such a concept, and even if it might be a misapplication of the concept of counterculture. Now, I have a whole list of words I had to look up for Carmilla, so that might be its own video, but I'd like to bring your attention to just one word in this book I had to look up. It's Schloss, which is the German word for castle. Carmilla, the book, not the character, repeatedly uses the word Schloss, presumably so that it won't be confused with chateau from French or English, castle, which are the same words, just in different languages, which I thought was a really interesting touch. It was apparently a very important distinction to be made in this book. Now, if you want to talk more about why there was a castle in the first place in this book, and why castles are creepy, you can do that here. And if you'd like to talk about more horror stories throughout October, you can subscribe and hit the bell. But don't forget, good night, good day, good potato.